I know this isn't going to put this to bed. I know that this dumb thing and this dumb argument is going to be around probably forever, because people will just always be
want to argue.
They're going to want to argue, and they don't want to move away from their position. So what I'm talking about, there is a theory among, let's just say, the casual movie watcher, that the Eagles in Return of the King.
You mean the super fans?
If like Sauron is hot, I feel like people will be like, I can fix him.
The super fans. Oh, dude, I'm gonna start using that from now on. I'm gonna be like, look at this super fan over here, and put super fan in quotation marks when I'm talking to people on Twitter. What we're talking about is this argument that people make that the Eagles were the best method to take the ring from Rivendell all the way to Mount Doom, and drop it in. And some people
part of the way. Now, Joseph, I'm going to let you go first. I wrote some points down, so feel free to use those as a guideline, if you will. But let's talk about this, because I got into it. Well, we both did, but I got into it because I told a guy on Twitter that he was wrong, because everybody always forgets about the fell beasts, and it's like, this if you have any like regular if you've read the first 10 pages of Fellowship of the Ring, you should be aware of what the ring wants and the kind of power that the ring has. Yeah. So I will. So before you get into that, because I'll let you get into that, I want to add just this one thing. The thing to remember is you got to think of you're coming from outside the events, right? You got to insert yourself in as the characters and what they know and understand. Exactly. And so that's the one key point I want to make out, because Gandalf always knew, right? The big thing was keeping it a secret that Frodo was taking it to Mount Doom. Is it secret? Is it safe? And because he knew that if Sauron found out, very, very bad things would happen. Spoiler alert. Just kidding. When Gandalf gets killed by the Balrog. Listen, these books came out in like 1955, and the movie's already out. Imagine us getting comments of people being, "How dare you! I just got to that part in the book," or in the movie, right? Yep. I haven't seen Fellowship of the Ring, but anyway, so yeah, when Gandalf dies, fly, you fools, from the Balrog fight, and then they all go to Lothlorien, right? And there Aragorn said he didn't, I believe it was Aragorn who said that he didn't know what Gandalf's purpose was beyond Lothlorien, right? Yeah. I believe something to that extent. I can't remember verbatim. So again, it's inserting yourself into understanding the characters, the various different characters like Sauron as well. And you mentioned the ring, one of those things being, you can go ahead and take it over, since that was a point you were making. Oh, so the ring wants to get back to Sauron. Mm-hmm. That is its ultimate goal, essentially. Mm-hmm. It corrupts people in order to get that done. Yep. Now, and it's alluring, right? Yeah. And so, in that part of that corruption is people. Reason why it wasn't destroyed by Sildor and others, because they don't want to destroy it because of the corruption, and it's also one of the the power that it gives to others is also one of the reasons why Sauron was also afraid of it falling into someone else's, it being used against him. Yes. After all, why not? Why shouldn't I keep it? Like Saruman, for example. Yeah, and it's everyone kind of had everyone will argue about, oh, well, this person didn't take it, blah blah blah. Yeah. But the thing is that it and this is where I think the discussion of it really kind of comes in as far as what the ring wants to do. But I think that one of the reasons Gandalf was able to push back against it was because he was aware of what it was, where you have someone because this was what someone said. It was well, Gandalf didn't take the ring or whatever. He didn't get completely corrupted by it or try to kill Frodo for it or whatever. And it's but he was aware of what would happen if he did. And he knew if he took it, he wouldn't be able to fight back. But before getting it, you still have essentially, it seems that you still have that autonomy not to take it. Right. And that's across the board with just about every I would say every character, because Boromir, of course, being human, right? Like he doesn't have any sort of like special power or whatever, and so the allure of that, in the same way that like Isildur couldn't manage to hold on to it, to not be corrupted by it. He ultimately like falls to it and tries to kill them, and then when he realizes what's going on, that's when he snaps out, but it's too late. And so you have this thing that it's like the ring is complicated.
Yep. But at the same time, people won't realize is that it's once you have it in your, like Gandalf wouldn't touch the ring,
exactly.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And so
he uses the prongs to pick it up out of the fire,
Yep.
because he doesn't. Well, obviously it's fire, but he also doesn't want to touch it.
And you see, I think in the movie, like you see him try to go touch it. I don't think he actually touches it. I think he gets close and he pulls away because he gets that Sauron glimpsed. Right?
Yeah, I don't think he actually ever touches the ring. And if he does, listen,
either.
and if he does in the movies, that's a mistake.
Yes.
that's the answer to that question. Yeah, so
which is the same reason why Galadriel refused to ring as well.
Exactly. And it wants to go back to him, right? So if Frodo had flown with these eagles to try to get rid of the ring, it is well within logic that one, if not all of said eagles, depending on how many we're talking about, would have torn him and Sam to shreds and either taken it for themselves out of some sort of misguided idea that they could take it and, as you've told me, potentially become free. Like if that, like we're getting into theory right here, as far as the eagles are concerned. But more than likely, that thing probably would have just flown it right back to him, like back to Sauron.
Not only that, you got the Witch King of Angmar, which is probably, he's more powerful than Gandalf the Grey.
Yeah.
You could argue that he's more powerful than Gandalf the White. And so he alone with the Nazgul, and then, obviously once Sauron catches on to their plan with the eagles, you have the orcs, the fellow beast, the Witch King of Angmar. I mean, that, you know what I mean? It just, the orc shooting arrows at them. And not only that, but the eagles stated in, what was it? I have the quote right here, actually. In The Hobbit, the Lord of the Eagles explained, so you not only do you have all of them, you have men as well, because he said that if the men saw them, they would shoot at us with their great bows of yew, for they would think we were after their sheep. And at other times they would be right. But no, we are glad to cheat the goblins of their sport and glad to repay our thanks to you, but we will not risk ourselves for the dwarves in the southward plains. So again, it's taking all of that into consideration.
Yeah.
Not only that, again, we talk about all of this, right? It's also remembering Sauron had many, many allies and spies. And so using the eagles would be, might as well just go up and use a planeteer and tell Sauron what you're doing, because that's exactly what it's going to do.
It's such a bad argument. And
it really is.
You were saying that one of the things Gandalf needed was for the ring to be kept secret.
Right.
And because Gandalf is very smart and is maybe, precognizant? Like he has this, I don't know if it's ever actually mentioned, but he gives off the impression that he knows potential outcomes for things.
Yeah. So it's different from Galadriel, because Galadriel has like foresight, right? In a sense, like she can, in a way, see the future, but it's like see both outcomes of the future. Like that's why she says, if you stray this way, then this will happen. If you go this way, then this will happen, right? So she sees both futures, and Gandalf is kind of like,
it's
able
almost
to see things.
Yeah,
almost.
It's almost like he has a muddy idea of the way things could turn out, and it's based on his connection to people. It's like when he talks about why, like Bilbo not killing Gollum, and he's saying that like there's something to that, and Gollum has a role to play in this yet, even though I don't completely know what that might be. And and like Bilbo's compassion could be the reason that things work out in our favor in the long run. And so he's clearly aware of things, but not totally. So that being said, he should be sort of the authority, right, for why it makes the most sense for Frodo to take the ring,
Yep.
Because one, he is aware that hobbits seem to be able to withstand what goes on with the corruption of the ring for a longer period of time. Not that it doesn't, right? Because you see that with Bilbo, where he still doesn't want to give it up. But Bilbo isn't willing to murder the people around him to hold on to the ring.
It's not like he hasn't been corrupted to a point of like, obviously all that is evil,
right?
But like real heinousness, right? Because he spares Gollum's life. Yet right after he spares his life, he still lies to Gandalf and the dwarves about the ring that he found.
Yep.
And so we go back to the secrecy, and that's why the Fellowship took the appearance of unassuming travelers, is to keep it a secret. So Gandalf being that authority, that's why they took that route.
Yep. And this is the problem that people forget when they're just like, nah, bro, I don't believe you. The Eagles totally could have just taken the ring. And then you ask them to like, all right, well, why am I wrong then? Like, this is what happened. We're going off what Tolkien gave us. Why do you believe that you are correct in this? And they're just like, well, whatever, man.
Because
and that's
oh, and the Eagles don't have a will on their own.
Yep.
They're controlled by Aule. I think I'm pronouncing his name right. And he was directed. Was it him, Aule or Aule? Anyway, one of them were directed by Eru to not like to be limited. They had limits on when they could intervene, and so there's that fact. And then also they were so large they wouldn't be able to get the ring and then drop it into Mount Doom.
Yeah. Yeah. Not to mention, and I know that Tolkien was not a fan of analogy or what's the other one? Metaphor. He was not a fan of either of these things, and people like to put this idea out there that like, oh, Gandalf is a 1-to-1 representation of this blank thing from the real world or whatever. And that's like, okay, he probably took influence from some of these things, but he is very specific in letters that he's like, I hate these things. He's like, this is a story that I am writing. He's like, stop trying to compare it to other things. Anyway.
Yes.
The ring itself does it essentially it does represent.
It's allegory he dislikes, by the way.
Yeah. Because he hated Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, even though C.S. Lewis and him were friends.
Yeah.
Because that is like blatant allegory.
Yeah.
Anyway, so there is a bit there, like the ring represents power and corruption, and one of the things that's so cool about it is that it will use your best interests, like we were talking about with Boromir, for its own gain and corrupt you despite maybe you having the best interest, right?
Yep.
And that's the thing, and that's the pull in the allure, and that's something that he learned about power.
Yep.
Because of his experiences in life and being in World War I. Go ahead.
And just as a final note for me at least, the ring wasn't destroyed intentionally. Frodo gets to Mount Doom and he isn't even able to destroy it.
Exactly.
It takes an accident from Gollum in order for it to be destroyed. Gollum fighting with Frodo.
Yep.
So,
it took everything that they had, right? And it wasn't just this one person who
Mere
ultimately.
chance.
And again, that goes back to the whole idea that when Gandalf is talking about like Gollum has a role to play in this yet, right? If he wasn't there, it's like what would have happened.
My heart tells me that Gollum has some part to play yet, for good or ill, before this is over.
It's like that was in a way the key, and it's so cool because that is a connection back to his original book with The Hobbit. Obviously, there's a lot more, but like that all kind of coming full circle in the end is pretty cool.
Yeah.
And then of course the Fell Beast thing, because like you were saying with the Witch King of Angmar, like if he's on a Fell Beast and he's got these eagles, it's like he's probably gonna win. Especially.
Oh yeah, and we don't know how many Fell Beasts Sauron had at his disposal.
Yeah.
You have the orcs. You have their not just their the archery, them being archers, but other tools and devices they have. I mean, it's just, then you have the men, all of that together. It just doesn't make any sense.
It's such a weak argument. It drives me crazy that people still use it. And I guarantee you we're going to have more discussions like this because there are going to be other arguments that come up along the way.
When you post this, people are going to be in the comments.
Yeah,
at least one will.
No, man, it totally works. And there'll be like posting videos that people put up or whatever. But you see this argument a lot, man. Like they'll be like
people will put up there like the 10 biggest errors in the Lord of the Rings trilogy, and they're usually talking about the movies. And I think all of these arguments, for the most part, still apply to the movies as much as they would if we were talking specifically about the books.
Right.
It's ridiculous.